Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to my 350 square feet off-grid house. We're going to go through the house today. I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about it. I'm going to tell you how we live in such a small space off-grid and how we've adapted to off-grid appliances and off-grid living and cooking. So we're going to go through a bunch of things today. We're going to tell you things that we like, things that we don't like. I'm going to be honest with you about some of the things that we are unhappy with living in a small space, and hopefully you can learn something from us here. So we're in the kitchen. The house is 350 square feet. We did a rustic style. We have wood throughout the entire house, and it's just tongue and groove pine. And for my cabinets, we did open cabinets. They're not cabinets, they're shelves. We use the 1/2-inch black pipe with the end caps on them for open shelves for the kitchen. And we did that for a variety of reasons. Number one, we had such a tall space that we thought we would be able to use more space that way. And I like the open look. I like to be able to see where everything is, and everything that is in this house has a purpose. I have had some questions from people asking why I have so many pots and pans and why I have so much stuff in my kitchen. And I can tell you that I use every single thing in this kitchen. I love to cook. Everything has a purpose, and if it doesn't, then it is not in here. We'll start on this wall right here. We have a lot of cast iron here. A lot of it I found at secondhand stores, thrift stores, garage sales. And some of this stuff has replaced electric appliances in our house. I do have a cast iron wok. We don't have a toaster because a toaster uses a lot of power for electricity, so we just use a camp toaster. I don't have an electric griddle, so I have a cast iron griddle that just goes on my stove. I don't have an electric waffle iron, so I have a cast iron waffle iron that just goes on my stove, and then just some variety of other pots and pans from there. I do have a KitchenAid. I don't use it as much as I used to, but I do use it occasionally. If I'm making a large batch of bread or something, I will use that. This is another neat thing my husband did for me. We just had some extra black pipe, and we used that, and he made a paper towel holder. Everything that is off of the counter in this space is great. Anything that we can just get up off of taking up space. The pot rack over here for the cast iron, we knew we were going to do this before we put the wood on the walls. We had this all designed, and as well as the black pipe behind all of the shelves in the kitchen. We did reinforce all of that with extra wood behind that, knowing that we were going to be putting a lot of weight on some of these shelves and also on that pot rack. That brings us to the stove here. This is a unique stove. I'll take my towel off so you can see the brand. Its brand name is Unique. It is an off-grid stove. It is gas. It does not require any power whatsoever, and it is a battery ignited ignition. I'll show you how it starts just the same way as any other stove does. I did upgrade the model to have the extended grates across the entire top because I do a lot of cooking and a lot of canning, and I didn't want the small grates. I wanted to just be able to have the continuous grates, and that also came with the power burner, which is great for my wok. It does take a little bit of a learning curve to learn how to turn on the oven. It's quick. It's not as quick as a regular gas stove. You can turn a gas stove on in a couple seconds. This takes probably 6 to 8 seconds to ignite, and it is just a process of making sure that the pilot light turns on in the stove, and you have to hold it for a few seconds and then it will light. So I use this stove a lot. I use it as my slow cooker. I don't have a conventional slow cooker that I use very often. I do have one. It's usually only used for potlucks. When I go out somewhere, I usually cook something. It's fully cooked before it goes into the crock pot, and then it just goes there and gets plugged in somewhere else. So today I'm slow cooking some meat for supper. So it is, this stove runs a lot, and I've had it for about a year, and I do really, really like it. So when we were deciding whether or not, or what stove we were going to purchase, we knew we definitely wanted a gas stove. And we upgraded this one about a year ago. I've had this for almost a year. And when we first were building this house, we knew that we wanted an old gas stove. We needed to find one that had just the old pilot lights to them, because anything that plugs in, any of the newer versions of the gas stoves, take a lot of power to run. They have the control panel on the top that requires electricity. the heat is actually regulated, even though it's a gas stove, the heat is regulated by electricity. And so they use a lot of power. And it took us a long time to find a gas stove that was that old that ran just on pilot lights. The one that we found was in working condition, but it was really dirty. We had a lot of elbow grease to get that thing going again. And it wasn't 100%. It did work good for what we needed it for. We've actually moved that to our, what we call our outpost cabin in the UP. And then when we upgraded to this, and this one's definitely a lot nicer. But that's why we went with an off-grid type of gas stove. And honestly, the prices of these are not much different than you would find in any big box store for a regular gas stove. So coming over here, we have our coffee area. We don't have a coffee maker. Coffee makers produce heat and they take up a lot of electricity. Dan prefers the French press. I prefer the pour over. So that's what we use. We use just a regular teapot and warm up the water on the stove, and then we just use these coffee makers. We do use a coffee grinder. It doesn't take a lot of power. When you're living off grid and you're judging how much power you're using, you really learn as to what little appliances you can use and what they take and what you can get away with using and what you can't. For my sink, I have a really large sink. I have just one sink here. I didn't want the divided one. I wanted something really big, and just the one single sink is good for me. We have hot and cold running water. We have an on-demand water heater that we have for the whole house. And so this is just a regular, just like normal faucet. I don't have a lot of room in this kitchen. I have 6 feet of counter, and as you can see, my sink takes up a lot of that. So I don't have a dish drainer out here. I just use a little roll-up one that just rolls across half of my sink. I wash my dishes, let them dry here, put them away. This rolls up and stays out of the way. You start trying to find ways to save space when you're living in such a tiny space. All of our under cabinet lighting is 12 volt. It's all just attached right to the battery, and they really take only just a few watts. I think 3 watts each. So these lights just have a little button on them. They turn on. They have a high and a low setting, and they light up the cabinets really well. Actually light up the room quite well too. So we use these sometimes just for night lights, and they really work very well. We bought them on Amazon, and they've lasted us quite a while. I do have a Vitamix and an Instant Pot. I don't use them that often. If I'm using the Vitamix, it's usually just on a lower power, just to mix up a protein shake or something in the morning. We don't have ice here, so I don't put ice in it a lot. And so it's not used on a very high power. And I will typically have the generator on when I'm using that. My Instant Pot doesn't get used very often unless I'm only using it for things like steel cut oatmeal that only take about 4 minutes. And again, I'll turn my generator on before I use that. That's why that is way up top there, because I don't use it that often. Some of the things on the upper shelves are things that I just don't use that often, and I do have a small ladder that I use to get up there. So this is my refrigerator. This is also the same brand name as the stove. It's a unique brand. We bought this at Costco. They sell these online only, not at the store themselves. We bought the stove through the Cabin Depot, which is an off-grid appliance store. This is a DC fridge. It runs on solar and 12 or 24 volt. We run on 12 volt, and it is 10 cubic feet. The freezer is really small. And if there was anything about that I didn't like, is the size of the freezer. And it does tend to get some ice buildup on the inside of the fridge itself. So it does work pretty decent. We've never had a problem with it other than a little bit of that ice buildup, and it does work really good for us. It's just a little bit smaller, so you have to learn how to conserve space in your refrigerator. So we went with this type of shelf for a variety of reasons, mostly because of the space. We like the open shelf look. I looked at lots of pictures of different house designs when we were designing this, and I felt that this was going to be the best use of space. Things aren't going to get lost inside of a cupboard, and I can use the shelf space all the way to the ceiling, so that there's just a lot of a good use of space up there. So another space-saving item that we have is my pot rack up here. It saves a lot of space for hanging pots and pans. I was able to find this on Facebook Marketplace, brand new, still in the box, for a really good price. We put 12-volt light bulbs in there, and those only take about 6 watts each. So was really wanting one of these, and I was fortunate to find it, and it does work really well, and it lights up the counter space really nice. My kitchen island here, we actually purchased this. We thought it might be a little bit too big for this house, but it actually has been great for storage and for a working surface. It's our dining room table, it's my kitchen counter, it's my workspace, it's everything that we have need for in the kitchen. This was an Amish made just a cabinet that we found, and I really, really enjoy it. It does seem to take up a little bit of space, but it's definitely worth it. I have my grain mill. It is a hand crank grain mill, it's not electric. I haven't used it very much yet. It's my goal this winter to start using this a whole lot more and to teach myself to do a lot more cooking with whole grains and making my own bread with my own wheat berries and the variety of things that you can use with it. This one also comes with the wet auger where you can use it for nut butters and the corn as well. So my kitchen and living room area is about 12 by 14 feet, and so that's not a lot of room for storage. We do have some lower cabinets, and we don't have a dining room table. We just have a kitchen island with some stools on it that we use for dining. But where do you put your food? Where's your pantry? That was a big question when we were building this house. And we came up with just taking this dividing wall that was between the kitchen living room area and the bedroom and just making it extra thick and putting sliding doors in front of it and putting shelves in here and making a pantry. Now, if you don't cook, this pantry might scare you just a little bit. So I do a lot of cooking from scratch. I use a lot of dried goods. I use my freeze-dried items, and everything in here is an ingredient for some type of cooking. I also keep some cookbooks in there as well. And I have a lot of things stored in here. Everything is stored in glass. I am attempting to get everything out of plastic just so I don't have any plastic in the house. Everything degrades a little bit more in plastic than it does in glass, and just doesn't taste as good. So this is my pantry. So this door also doubles as the bedroom door. It closes, the pantry is exposed open whenever the bedroom door is closed, but that's okay. It's just the two of us here anyway. So yep, dual purpose. They slide back and forth really nice. The cats can even open them. So I mentioned that I did have a freeze dryer. How do you run a freeze dryer off grid? You find a friend that has electricity and you have them babysit it for you and you both use it. There's 2 doors to this pantry. All of my spices, canned goods, everything that's not in the root cellar is in here, and this is what I consider my working pantry. Back to a wall. So our primary heat source is wood. We have gone through 3 to 4 face cord of wood each winter since we've been living here. This house is not very big, so it doesn't take much to heat it at all. As a matter of fact, if I'm going to be baking or cooking a lot during a day, we tend to not make much of a fire just because the stove is enough sometimes to warm it up in here. We also do have a blue flame heater, which is a backup heater. We have it set pretty low. It's usually at about, I think, 55 degrees. And once it gets lower than that, it will kick on. That's just to keep it from freezing. We do work some long hours sometimes, and we just have to keep the house from freezing because we can't keep the fire going in the stove that long. This is our bedroom. It's about 10 by 10. We do, however, have a king size bed in here. That was one thing that was important to us. We built the frame specifically for the bed ourselves and just put the mattress on top of that. We built it extra tall so that we can have storage underneath. When you have 350 square feet, you need to find all the storage that you can possibly find. Our clothing is just on more black pipe above the bed. It's not ideal. It's not our favorite thing about this house, but we don't have room for a closet, and that was the best thing that we could come up with. We do have a small hook that we had made for being able to reach up and grab some of the things without getting on the bed. But that's definitely one of the things that we don't like, but we do live with. And we were able to do that because of the 10-foot ceilings in this house. We have the headspace to do it, and it really doesn't affect the bed at all. Another thing that we have that's still a work in progress is our clothes. They're on a shelf here. This was going to be kind of some wasted space on this wall right here for the bathroom. We thought about putting a dresser here, but a dresser would have not been as much room. Also, a dresser would be too wide for this space here. So this is still a work in progress. We change it up every now and then and see what we like, and sometimes we go back to the other way, and sometimes we try something different. So that's the joy of living in a small space and kind of just living the way we want to. We just keep working and see what works best for us, and that's the way it has to be, is what works best for you. Also, because of the 10-foot ceilings, we did not need a 10-foot ceiling in our bathroom, and we decided to just do 7-foot ceilings, which left us with, on top of the entire bathroom, has storage space up there. That is just extra storage for suitcases, extra paper towel, toilet paper, some craft items are up there, off-season clothes, anything that you just don't need very often, but you need storage for, is up there. And there's actually quite a bit of storage up there. So this is our bathroom. It is 4x10. Oops. We made it 4x10 because we wanted room for a 48-inch shower. We definitely knew we wanted that, so we planned that ahead. And we do have the 48-inch shower. It's just a regular shower, hot and cold running water. And definitely like that. I have a rechargeable vacuum that works really well. You don't need to plug it in other than just to charge it every now and then. Another space-saving thing is the medicine cabinet. We were able to pick this out before we put the wood on the wall. We knew we wanted some extra space in the bathroom, so we did get that. So we have just a purchased 36-inch bathroom vanity here. It's not something that we built. We did buy it. It is more than adequate for 2 people, and it does have some storage in it underneath the sink, and it does have 3 drawers. Over here we have our composting toilet. It does have a liftable, the whole entire top does lift up in here. We have a bucket with some sawdust in it for the composting toilet, and we also have in the wasted space that was on the side here, we do have an entrance for our cat's litter box. They have some privacy, and I don't want to look at a litter box. I'm sure most of my friends that come over don't want to look at a litter box, and it gives us a place to keep everything clean and just out of the way. And it also doesn't, you don't smell it either when it's down in there. So it's easy to clean out. You just lift up the lid here and you can clean it out. So we also have some shelves up here just for some extra linens and some extra cleaners, shampoos and soaps and that kind of thing. Again, more black pipe. So I hope you enjoyed the little tour of our house and how we live in such a small space off grid. If you have any questions, feel free to add them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching.